Hi everyone, welcome to the ZENner Mobile Yoga YouTube channel. Today we're going to be going over wrist pain and what may cause it, how to help it, and there's really a few different things that we can attribute to wrist pain or how it happens. First, it could be from just overuse of the muscles, which a lot of us this day and age do. We're on computers a lot, we scroll through our phones a lot, so just overuse of the muscles can make them tired. It could also be from weak muscles in the wrists and arms. So we'll be focusing on strengthening muscles, so not just stretching, but strengthening. And then also it could be, and this is the biggest thing for maybe new yogis or even seasoned practitioners, is hand placement when we're doing the postures, doing the weight-bearing postures on the wrists. So we're gonna focus on that too. We'll go over some alignment. I've had a lot of inquiries about making a video about wrist pain, so I know there's a lot of people out there that suffer from it, and I think people might avoid the physical practice of yoga altogether because of it. I also want to be clear here that I'm not minimizing the seriousness of certain ailments when it comes to the wrist, such as carpal tunnel and things like that. So if you do have continuing wrist pain, it's very important that you get checked out by your doctor. So aside from that, remember that when we are practicing yoga, that we are doing that intricate dance of stretching and strengthening, pushing and pulling. So that is the physical practice, or the hatha yoga. And knowing that, you'll know that we can't just focus on the wrist without focusing on the arm or the shoulders. And when it comes to the wrist, it's no different. So we're going to be looking at the relationship between the wrists and the rest of the arm. And unfortunately, quite often the hands and the wrists, get ignored when it comes to the physical practice of yoga, which is unfortunate because they are foundational to a lot of the poses, the weight-bearing poses. Just like the feet are foundational to our standing poses. And the placement of the hands or the feet are going to line up and kind of cue what the rest of the body is going to be doing. So having said all that, let's go ahead and get started. So go ahead and make fists with your hands with the thumbs on the outside of the fingers and just start to circle the wrists. We're just creating heat here to begin. And remember, any of these stretches you can do to prepare yourself for the day. You can pick and choose the ones that are good for you. Go ahead and do it a little faster. You can always come back to this video and fast forward to the parts that you want to do. And then go ahead and do the opposite direction. Keeping the spine nice and long. You could be sitting in a chair or on the floor. And just kind of be aware of the slight sensations you're feeling in your wrists. My wrists are already starting to get a little bit tired from doing this. Do it for a few more breaths here. Don't forget to breathe. And then open the hands and close the hands. So we're going to do this really fast. Maybe for about 20 more seconds. Good, keep going, keep breathing. I bet you're starting to feel that. Woo, okay. 3, 2, 1, and then go ahead and shake. So shake the wrists out. Good. Go ahead and stop. So remember, the more movement we do in the joints, the more lubricated they stay and the healthier they stay for us. So even just doing this beginning part is really important before you get on a computer or on your phone in the morning. Go ahead and straighten your right arm out in front of you. We're gonna point the fingers down, and we're just going to keep the arm straight, so no bend in the elbow here. Take the pinky, breathe in, and as you exhale, bring that pinky towards the wrist. So we're just stretching the fingers here. And then go ahead and do it with the next finger. Breathe in, and as you exhale, bring it towards the wrist. You should be feeling a stretch in the top of the wrist, maybe if you need it. Depends on what hand you use as well. I'm right-handed, so I feel it more in this hand. Middle finger, breathe in, stretch it towards the wrist. And we're only looking for a gentle stretch here. We don't want to go overboard and cause injury. Point your finger. As you exhale, bring it towards the wrist. You can also spend more time doing this on your own. Instead of going at my pace, you can go at your pace. And then lastly, the thumb. So just bring it in. The thumb is a little bit different, so we're just gonna bend it towards the knuckle and it's gonna go more towards the right side of the hand. Good. And then shake it out a little bit. We're gonna, before moving on to the other hand, we're gonna point the fingers up and now go in the other direction. So bring the pinky back. Sitting nice and tall as you do this. Ring finger back. Keeping the arms straight. So you might even notice now that you're feeling a stretch through the forearm or maybe the whole arm, not just the wrist. Point your finger. Oh, that one feels really good for me. Good, and then the thumb. Bring the thumb back. Good, shake it out. We'll do the other side. Fingers pointing down on the left hand. Inhale, as you exhale, bring the pinky back. And then go ahead with the ring finger. Middle finger. Pointer. And then thumb. Good. Shake it out a little bit. And then we'll do the opposite. So we're stretching the top of the wrist, now we'll be stretching the bottom. So straight arm, fingers pointing up as much as you can. They might not be able to go very far if the muscles are really tight. Bring the pinky back. Fingers stay spread. And then the ring finger. And try to keep the shoulder blades drawn together and down towards the tailbone as much as possible. So we're actually grounding the shoulders and helping the strength of the shoulders to keep our arms up. Because our arms can get tired just keeping them up in the air here. Go ahead and do the pointer. And then the thumb. Good. Go ahead and shake it out. Nice job. Next, I want you to bring your hands together. So Anjali Mudra, so just hands in front of the heart. You're going to be pressing the palms together. Draw the shoulder blades together and down towards the tailbone. And we're just going to direct the fingers down. Stop where this starts to feel good for you. You might not be able to bring your fingers down very far. Some of you might be able to go a little further than me. And then we're pressing the heels of the hands together. Feeling the stretch in the wrist happen here. Take a few breaths. One more, breathe in and out. Good, go ahead and release. And now I want you to bring your arms out to the sides. And we're gonna do what is called a nerve cleanse here. So pointing the fingers down, trying to take almost that index finger to touch the wrists. And you'll be able to feel a stretch in the forearm happening here. And then bringing the fingers up as if you're trying to touch the top of your arms with your index fingers. And just the sensation or the perspective. You're not going to be able to get too close to the arms with the index fingers. Don't forget to breathe while you do this. We'll do it a couple more times here. Good. Go ahead and make fists. So this time we're going to take the thumbs and touch the palms, and then wrap our fingers over. So we're gonna make fists this way, keeping the arms out to the sides. We're gonna do circles. Circling the wrists, kind of like what we did in the beginning, just with the arms extended out to the sides. Make sure you're not crunching your shoulders up to your ears. We wanna keep the shoulder blades down towards the tailbone, together and down. Neck is nice and long. Go ahead and reverse the direction. And then come to a slow stop. Keep your fists, and then we're gonna point the fists down, the knuckles down towards the floor. And then up, down, up. One more time. Down and up. Good. Bring the arms down and shake everything out a little bit. Now I want you to meet me on your hands and knees because we're gonna talk about placement of the hands as well as some exercises to strengthen the wrists. This is the first thing in placement. If your shoulders are going over the wrist, you're compressing the wrist, and that's gonna be a problem if you're doing that over and over again in your yoga poses. So you always wanna make sure that your shoulders directly over the wrist, especially for poses like plank, chaturanga, downward dog, your hands can be outside a little bit. So take the top of the hand, right hand starting, and put it on the mat so your fingers are facing the knees. And you might already feel a stretch by doing this. So the further you bring your seat or your sitting bones towards the heels, the more of a stretch you're going to feel. We don't want to bend in the elbow here. We want to keep the arm nice and straight. And if this is good, so say you're not feeling too much of a stretch here, you can begin to shift your weight back. Almost peeling the top of the hand off the mat. Good. And then go ahead and release. A couple of circles here. And then do the other side. So top of the hand on the mat, fingers towards the knees. My left hand is not as tight as my right, so I could probably go a little bit further here. You do what your body's telling you to do today. Take a couple of breaths. Peel the wrist up if you want. Good. And then go ahead and shake it out. Bring the fingertips now towards the knee. Start with your right hand. Keep the fingers spread. Keep the bones stacked in the right arm. And you'll notice that if you begin, again, to shift the weight back, you can start to peel the palm up just a little bit. And breathe through it. And then go ahead and release. Of course, do the other side. Neutralize the wrists for a moment, and then go ahead and bring the fingertips of the left hand towards the knee. Good. Take a couple of breaths here. And I think it's important to note here too that, your wrists are not going to be perfect or stronger after doing this video just 1 or 2 times. It's going to take time. It's a process. It'll take some patience, but over time you will start to see a difference. Take another breath here. And then go ahead and release and shake it out a little bit. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about hand placement and what's going to help you when it comes to protecting your joints, your wrists in particular, and do a couple of strengthening exercises. So each time that we come to the mat, our hands come to the mat for most arm balancing poses, we want to have our fingers spread. We want to make sure that our shoulders are directly over the wrists, or the wrists being a little bit in front of, it depends. But most of all, we want to make sure that we're engaging the whole arm. We want to wake up the small muscles in our hands. We want to be using the whole arm, not just the wrists. We want to be using the serratus muscles and the sides of the body. So it takes everything. Just like the Hatha yoga practice, we're going to be pushing and lifting at the same time. So Fingers are going to be spread on the mat. Now, not too much, so just what feels comfortable, because you can hurt yourself from spreading your fingers too far as well. And then we want to be pressing, kind of when we start out, it's kind of like imagine your feet on the mat. Some of us walk on the outsides of our feet. Some of us walk on and put pressure on the insides of our feet. We want to find that balance. But most of all, and most importantly, just like we press on the ball mount of the big toe to ground the femurs into the hip socket, we're going to be pressing really good on this pad of the first finger. It will be engaging this whole L area of the fingers as well as our pinky, but most of all, we're really pressing the root of these first fingers into the mat. And what that's going to do is ground the humeri into the shoulder sockets, okay? So that'll force the shoulders to be part of our pose, and we're not dumping all of the weight into our wrists. And I want you to take notice for a moment with your hands flat. I want you to take a look at your thumbs and notice if your thumbs are rolled out to the side, which, we're swipers, we're a swiping culture now, so our thumbs might roll out to the sides. I want you to try to press the thumbs flat onto the mat. And then pressing the thumb into the mat, I want you to notice what muscles in your arms engage. So you're pressing the thumbs, say isolating, just putting the weight into your thumbs. You'll notice the inner arm and the bicep engaging. When you press the pinky, you'll notice the outer arm or the tricep engaging. So this is how important it is for the fingers to be awake and engaged in your arm balancing poses. So now that you know the placement of the fingers, where you should be pressing, once you're pressing, you're going to want to feel this kind of the suction with your hands, and we call that the hasta bandha. So there's different bandhas in yoga that we use to help lift energy up from our feet, the pada bandha, mula bandha in the belly, lifting the organs up, lifting the energy from the hands up. That way we're not dumping towards the earth. So that's important. So with your pressing the ball mounds of the big fingers, having your fingers spread, I want you to now feel this kind of suction on the mat. And I want you to practice that, because that's going to strengthen those tiny muscles in the hands that are important for all those down dogs. So you can practice that, just practice suctioning the hands up. And then also, I want you to practice as if you're opening to, a big jar of pickles or something. I really like pickles, so opening a jar of pickles. So with your hands on the mat, kind of do that movement of opening the jars. And that's going to strengthen the wrists, the forearms, the hands, and you'll feel it. As you're doing it, just breathe. You might start to feel your arms shake a little bit, and that's okay. Very intricate movements, but very important. When you're done doing the opening of the jars, that's the open the jar asana for your hands. I'm just kidding. Don't bring that to your yoga class. Bring the top of your hand onto your mat. Again, we're going to stack the bones. We're not bending the elbow. And then we're going to just try to keep the top of the hand as flat as we can on the mat and touch the fingers one at a time. And we're just strengthening the muscles in the hands. Good. And then when you're done, shake out the wrists, do the other side. Your hand will get tired after a little bit. So one other thing that I tell my students as they're learning their hand placement and getting the strength in the arms is to look at the wrist creases. So when I first started teaching yoga, I used to instruct to bring that index finger, kind of like two skis off the front of the mat. But then I was taught, which made more sense to me, and that's what yoga is about, right? To kind of gather information, not just it's not black and white all the time. We learn different things from different teachers and then kind of take what's ours and share that, so what makes sense for us. So the wrist creases being kind of like the ankles. So if your feet are, if you're standing and your feet are like this and your feet are turned out, you'll notice that the creases, you know, of the tops of the feet will go out as well. The same thing is true for our wrists. So our wrist creases, we want to line those up with the top of the mat, not necessarily the index finger, because which way are we compressing? You know, that's what we're looking at here. We're trying to keep the wrists open. We're trying to keep everything open. So my wrist crease might mean that my index finger goes out to the side a little bit if I line the wrist creases up parallel to the front of the mat. Okay, so just practice doing that with your hand placement. And remember, it takes practice. Over a period of time, you'll notice your wrists getting stronger. You'll notice your arms getting stronger because remember, they all work together. So just be patient and honor your body, and your body will be kind to you in return. In the meantime, you can check out my tutorials on how to modify some of the poses if you're still strengthening your wrists or if you have other issues that you're dealing with medically with your wrists. As far as rolling up a mat, putting that under your wrist for some cushion, or grabbing the sides of your mat for poses like downward facing dog, or even going onto your forearms. So you'll find that in all the different tutorials that are already posted on the YouTube site. I hope this was helpful. Remember, any suggestions that you bring to me, I might make into a video for you so you can do more yoga. Thank you. Namaste.